Today we are making blueberry orange blossom scones. So hopefully a little taste of something nostalgic and familiar, and a little taste of something maybe a bit novel and exotic with the orange blossom water. I will just say up front, if you don't have orange blossom water, do not fret. These scones will still have tons of flavor without it, but it does add a little like floral component. It's fruity. It tantalizes you because you're sort of like, oh, I haven't had this before. It could be a gorgeous, obviously, breakfast anytime, but it's perfect for a lovely brunch or get together on the weekends if you want to wow. It's a great hostess gift. I love having little things like that in my arsenal, just things that surprise and delight without you having to do a whole lot. The inspiration for this particular flavor pairing came from two places. First of all, my family loves going to Maine in August, and the blueberries are exploding there. We eat them all the time, and it's such a juicy, wonderful molten fruit in baked goods. So I was really excited to feature them in scones, obviously kind of a traditional element in scones for good reason. And the orange blossom water came because years ago, and this just goes to show something so simple can be memorable years and years later, because of how it was just enough different that it just created a memory. It was very celebratory. A girlfriend of mine had us over for a dinner party, and she served for dessert cold berries, raspberries, blueberries, blackberries, that she'd sprinkled a little orange blossom water over top and then left to hang out in the fridge for a couple hours. And they were beautiful and cold and bursting and hydrating and so flavorful as our dessert. And I have to say, it was literally just cold, fresh fruit and orange blossom water, and it was one of the most heightened dessert experiences imaginable. So bringing these two beautiful flavors together. Also because I was like, blueberry and orange always go together, but what about orange blossom? So that's the inspiration. And now you will see how simple it is to make a beautiful baked good. We're gonna finish it with a little orange blossom glaze. You'll see it's gonna look very professional, but this is definitely not a baked good that you would find at your average corner coffee shop. So you can open your own now with this recipe. Okay, so the first thing you'll start with is 2 cups of all-purpose flour. I have my granulated sugar. 1/3 of a cup I find is the right balance of just enough sweetness that this definitely feels like a treat. A beautiful baked good with buttery, sugary delightfulness enrobing your fresh, juicy fruit. But you can go a little bit less or a little bit more depending on your taste preference. I do need just a pinch of salt in with my baked goods. It heightens the sugar experience actually by having your tongue taste saltiness alongside of it. Nutmeg, just a few dashes of nutmeg going into this dry mix. And then of course my queen of spices, cardamom and blueberry are great friends. I will say you don't really want to overwhelm with the spice blend here though, because we're featuring orange blossom water and that really should be our big moment. So just like a nice little nuanced backdrop. Baking powder. I need a tablespoon of baking powder to help create some of that lovely lift that we want going on in these scones. And just give those a quick stir together with your fork just to distribute all of that salt and spice and sugar into our flour. Set that off to the side, and then we will whisk together our cold, wet ingredients. And one critical piece of this recipe, kind of like when you're making pie dough where you want a light, tender, crisp, beautiful crust experience, we're working with all cold ingredients, especially cold butter, which is what I will get to next. It is having a moment in the refrigerator right now or freezer. Very cold butter is key, because when a cold scone hits the hot oven, the steam that is created as the butter starts to melt is what gives you that lift. It gets trapped between layers of flour and it creates that beautiful crisp airiness that we love. And the only way you get that is if your butter has not melted before it gets to the oven. So we gotta have cold butter and cold surrounding ingredients to keep it as cold as possible. Cold heavy cream, 1/2 cup there, and 1 egg with a beautiful yolk, I must say. We are going to spill in a touch of vanilla extract, and then just a teaspoon of our beautiful orange blossom water. Do not be tempted to go overboard here. A little does go a long way. And we'll just whisk these rich, creamy, fatty elements together so that everything is ready to go as soon as we bring that cold butter out. Excellent. 1 stick of freezing cold butter that I am going to just quickly cut up so I can work fast through it. If you want to cut it ahead, Just chop it up fine like I'm doing here, or grate it on a box grater, and then stick it back in the fridge or freezer to keep it really cold until you are ready to use. Eyeballing 1 stick, perfect. I just sort of typically cut it into 4, and then a really quick chop across to create lovely little small pieces of butter that will easily scatter into our cold flour mix. And now get your sleeves up and quickly toss those butter pieces through the flour. And then I'm just using my fingers to pinch it into the dough. We're trying to create layers of butter encapsulated in spiced flour. And once we have created a lovely kind of wet sand texture here, then we are going to add our wet mix and our blueberries, and I'll show you how to create wonderful, tender, flaky layers in your exquisite blueberry orange blossom scones. Okay, so once we are at this stage where there's nice little sort of craggy shards and some butter is incorporated fully and has sort of made the flour a little bit powdery, and some is still in like slightly larger pieces that you can find and pinch your way through. That is perfect. That is going to create a lovely buttery layer. You don't want to overwork at this point because we want this butter, again, to stay as cold as possible. Create a little well in your dry mix and add our wet in there. And then I'm going to use my fork actually just to kind of drag the dry into the wet here, just because my fork is not as warm as my hands. It's all in pursuit of coldness for our batter. Right about now, before all the dry mix is incorporated in, and you can see how quickly this is coming together, I'm going to add in my lovely, juicy, plump cascade of blueberries. And now, continue just tossing those into the mix. And even before everything is fully brought together, we can turn it out into our surface. And this is always, without fail, the part of the baking process that terrifies me, because I'm like, this is not a scone. This is powder in a pile. But watch what happens as you bring together a dough where the flour is beginning to hydrate with that cream and the egg and the vanilla extract and the orange blossom water. So I kind of just gather it into this rectangle. I'm grabbing a bench scraper, and then more than kneading the way that you might with like a pizza dough, you are kind of pressing together the layers of flour and butter and egg to create a dough that will hold together beautifully. And yes, I am chopping into some of the blueberries, but I'm totally fine with that because a little bit of like a marbling effect with the blue going through the dough, I don't mind it. I'm not mad about it. Okay, already we can see what is happening here with our dough starting to hold together. And I don't want to work it too hard at this point, but I am kind of just lifting up a couple times, layer onto layer, to create that wonderful flaky experience that we are hopeful of achieving. I think this is going to be the last of that lift. Just pressing any last remaining shards down onto each other. And you can press this into a round and cut wedges. The shape of your scones is entirely up to you, but I just want to get it to about an inch thickness. And just for good measure to have both sides receive a little padding. And then I'm going to cut mine into, I guess, square shapes, because I have this lovely, roughly inch thick rectangle square situation. Kind of give myself hash marks here to make about 9 scones. Looks good. And then these are going to hang out and just chill on a parchment-lined baking sheet until they are lovely and set up. Then we will bake them off to perfection. I'm just going to line my baking sheet with a bit of parchment paper and arrange my scones on top. These are gonna go in the fridge 20 to 30 minutes just till they get nice and cold again before we bake them to deliver maximum rise and flaky delectability. And we'll check on them in half an hour. Okay, 30 minutes later, they are lovely and set up. I'm gonna brush them now with just a little heavy cream, and that helps us get perfect golden brown beauty over the tops. And you don't need to go down the sides. We don't want to limit their ability to puff up and rise and create that layered brilliance that we're looking for. So just giving a little painting element over the top of each. And these are going to go into a 400-degree oven, maybe half an hour or so, but we'll keep a close eye on them. And then we're going to glaze them, because the fun never ends. Guys, it has come time for you to consider a lease on a bakery where you will specialize in orange blossom scented blueberry scones. Because, oh my gosh, these smell so good. Like out of control delicious. Wow, wow, wow. Oh my gosh. The cardamom is like wafting at me out of here. These crisp golden brown edges. I love to see these little craggles happening. That was where steam was released. That means you're gonna get tender interior, crisp, crunchy exterior. The blueberries that are just like bursting. Oh, insanity, insanity. Okay, I like really want to put the kettle on and get my tea ready to go. But before I get there, let's make an orange blossom drizzle. Because why stop here? Don't get 95% of the way and quit. We are going to go full throttle, 100% at nailing these scones to be over the top. Gorgeous. Gorgeous, gorgeous scones. One question we have is if we want to drizzle or dunk in the royal icing. We'll decide at the time. Okay, let these cool on a little cooling rack. Oh, yay. Oh, oh, oh. Oh, love that golden brown base. Yum. Guys, we have enough to share with our friends. This is very exciting. Okay. Sorry, I got distracted. I was intending to go make the icing first, and then I just like tripped and fell and found a scone in my mouth. Oh my gosh. So tender. This like scone biscuit marriage. Oh, look at that. Really and truly like the perfect marriage between a muffin and a biscuit. So light and airy. Not too sweet. Crisp, crisp, crisp exterior. Bursts of berries coming through to juice it all up. Okay, fine, we'll make the icing. Okay, while our scones continue to cool, I'm gonna make a really quick little sort of royal icing glaze to put on top. It's simple, but it does add a little bit of luxury here. We are going to feature our orange blossom water again here, about a tablespoon. If you don't have orange blossom water, you can obviously skip it, but lime juice is kind of a lovely alternate just to give a little zing, and blueberry lime. We love. I have a cup of powdered sugar, confectioner's sugar, about a tablespoon of the orange blossom, and about 2 tablespoons of milk, whole milk here. And then I melted about a tablespoon of butter. And the reason I'm going to add that into our royal frosting style glaze is because it actually, 2 things. It cuts a little bit of the sweetness of this glaze, and it also, with that like rounded kind of fatty note that it brings, but it also helps it set up beautifully over top of the scones. So just whisk it together. I may need to add a little bit more confectioner's sugar to get it to a lovely drippy consistency that will still hold and stick to our scones. And I gotta tell you that although my recipe and I were very excited about this glaze drizzle, having tasted that scone and how perfectly balanced it is, all I really want to do is take this last little warm nub and Spread a little softened butter on top. Oh my gosh, yes, I did it. I'm doing it. I'm doing it right now. Done. 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 Okay. But fine. If you want the frosting, here you go. Lovely and smooth. Nice and pourable. Just give it a little drizzle over each scone. Get your Jackson Pollock on. Maybe I want a little more frosting than that. A little more. Set up. You want it to have just enough body that it kind of holds its shape over cooled scones. Part of the issue is that I have not waited to let it cool entirely. So this is a good consistency, very pourable, but still nice, thick, and opaque, so it will set up beautifully on our scones. Ooh, got excited. Moderation is key here. All right, you know I've already tasted it, but who am I to say no to one more bite of like the true perfect, the real, fully completed, took our time, worked our wonders, made our glorious blueberry and orange blossom scone. You're perfect. You're perfect. You're perfect. Have a great day.